Have you ever found yourself waking up at 3 a.m. wide awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why sleep slipped away again? If so, you're not alone. For many older adults, this quiet hour has become an unexpected visitor, and while it might feel frustrating or even alarming, what if it's not a problem, but a message? Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't just about aging. It can be a gentle signal from your body or your heart trying to speak with you. Sometimes it's about changing rhythms. Other times it's about emotions that rise when the world is quiet. But every early morning wake-up has a story to tell, and in today's video, we'll explore those stories with compassion and clarity. At Senior Wellness, we believe aging should be understood, not feared. Together, we'll look at 5 deeply human reasons why waking at 3 a.m. happens, and what it might truly mean for your health, your sleep, and your peace of mind. If this resonates with you, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. You're not alone on this journey, and your voice just might bring comfort to someone else. Wide awake tonight. Let's begin gently together. Melatonin and midnight wake-ups. When the body grows quieter, so does sleep. For many older adults, waking up around 3 a.m. has become a familiar routine. It's not planned, it's not wanted. It simply happens without warning and often without understanding. One moment you're resting peacefully, and the next you're wide awake in the still of night, wondering why. One of the most common reasons behind this early waking is something many don't even realize is changing. Melatonin. The hormone our body naturally produces to guide our sleep. As we age, our bodies produce less melatonin, and the decline happens gradually. Melatonin helps signal to the brain that it's time to rest, and it plays a critical role in helping us stay asleep throughout the night. In our younger years, melatonin levels rise in the evening and keep us in deep sleep until morning, but by the time we reach our 60s, 70s, or beyond, those levels have dropped significantly. Meet Harold. At 76, he found himself waking up like clockwork at 3 a.m. night after night. At first, he assumed it was just part of getting older, but as the days passed, he started to feel tired. During the day, his mood shifted and his patience grew thin. He asked himself, was this the new normal? Harold's doctor gently explained that his body's melatonin production had likely diminished, and while aging was a natural part of it, there were also things in his routine that were quietly making it worse. For instance, Harold had developed a habit of turning on his bright reading lamp in the evening. That artificial light, especially from LEDs or screens, can suppress what little melatonin his body was still trying to produce. He also didn't realize how important light exposure during the day could be. Without enough sunlight, the body's internal clock, the circadian rhythm, can fall out of sync, making sleep more fragile and easily interrupted. This is where senior wisdom comes in. It's not just about knowing what's happening, it's about responding with small, compassionate adjustments. For Harold, shifting his evening lighting to a softer, warmer tone made a noticeable difference. He started spending more time near the window during the day, even stepping outside for a walk in the morning sun. These simple changes helped his body recalibrate. The 3 a.m. wake-ups didn't vanish overnight, but they softened. He began to fall back asleep more easily, and more importantly, he stopped blaming himself. At Senior Wellness, we believe in honoring the body's changes with care, not frustration. Growing older means listening differently. It means approaching sleep not as a battle, but as a rhythm that can still be nurtured with gentle, thoughtful habits. If you're experiencing early morning wake-ups, consider how your environment might be influencing your rest. Are your lights too bright in the evening? Are you getting enough daylight during the day? These are small questions, but they open the door to big improvements. And always please consult your doctor if sleep disruptions persist. Sometimes other factors like medications, underlying health conditions, or nutritional needs may also play a role. Sleep is deeply personal, and your journey to better rest should be just as personal too. Remember, a restful night is not out of reach. It may simply require a new approach and a little kindness toward your changing body. Because in this chapter of life, rest isn't just about energy, it's about peace. It's about knowing that your body is still working for you even in the quietest hours. When your body's clock shifts, understanding advanced sleep phase after 70. For many older adults, waking up at 3 a.m. doesn't feel like a sleep problem. It feels like a mystery. You go to bed early thinking you'll get a full night's rest. But instead you wake up in the early hours wide awake and unsure why your body decided it was time to start the day. One of the most common yet least talked about reasons is something called advanced sleep phase. a shift in your internal clock that comes naturally with age. Our bodies are guided by an internal timekeeper known as the circadian rhythm. It helps determine when we feel sleepy, when we wake up, and even when we feel most alert. In younger adults, this rhythm usually follows a typical pattern, feeling sleepy around 10 or 11 p.m. and waking up around 6 or 7 a.m. But as we get older, that internal clock starts to shift earlier. This means many seniors begin feeling sleepy as early as 7 or 8 p.m., and as a result, their bodies naturally wake up earlier too. Sometimes between 3 and 4 a.m. Take Charles, for example. At 74, he found himself falling asleep in his recliner right after dinner. He'd try to stay up, but by 8:30 his eyes were closing, and every morning without fail he woke up at 3:15 fully alert. At first he thought something was wrong. Was it insomnia, anxiety, something deeper? But his doctor reassured him that what he was experiencing was actually completely natural. For his age, Charles wasn't broken. He was simply operating on a shifted biological schedule. Understanding this changed everything. Instead of fighting the early mornings with frustration, Charles began adjusting his routine. He shifted dinner a little later, added a relaxing evening activity like reading or soft music, and delayed bedtime, closer to 9:30 p.m. He also dimmed his lights in the evening and tried to get morning sunlight during the day to help anchor his new rhythm. The result: his 3 a.m. wake-ups began to stretch toward 4 or 5 a.m., and when he did wake early, he no longer felt alarmed. He embraced it as quiet time for himself, a moment of peace before the world stirred. At Senior Wellness, we believe senior living means learning to adapt with grace and awareness, not just to physical changes, but to the natural rhythms of aging. Your body is not failing, it's simply changing its tempo. This concept of advanced sleep phase isn't something to be feared. In fact, it can be an invitation to reframe how we think about rest. Maybe you'll start your mornings with reflection reading or a warm cup of tea. Maybe you'll schedule naps strategically to support energy without disrupting nighttime sleep. What matters most is listening to your body with compassion and adjusting your life gently around it. If you're waking up at 3 a.m. and wondering what's wrong, it might not be a disorder. It might just be your body's new way of saying, "This is your rhythm now." The key is to build a routine that respects that rhythm instead of resisting it. As always, if these changes are interfering with your daily energy or quality of life, please speak with your healthcare provider. Your sleep patterns are important because good rest is a pillar of holistic health and emotional well-being. And remember, waking early doesn't mean something is wrong. It might simply mean you're in a new season of life, one where quiet mornings can bring quiet wisdom. When the body whispers at 3 a.m., physical discomfort and what it might be telling you. Waking up at 3 a.m. can feel like a mystery, especially when your room is quiet, the air still, and the night has more hours to give. For many older adults, this early waking isn't just about changing sleep cycles. Sometimes it's your body trying to tell you something. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to discomfort, both small and large. What may have been a minor ache at 40 can feel much heavier at 70, and often it's these quiet physical signals that wake us up in the middle of the night. Take Eleanor, for example. At 81, she began waking up around 3 a.m. every night, restless and agitated. At first, she thought it was just part of getting older, but after a few weeks, she realized something didn't feel quite right. Her back was stiff, her legs tingled. She also noticed that her acid reflux had become more frequent after dinner. She spoke with her doctor, who helped her uncover a few key causes behind her broken sleep. One of them was her arthritis. The inflammation made her joints ache more at night when her body was still. Another was the timing of her medication, which affected how often she needed to use the bathroom, and a third was the effect of reflux, after eating too close to bedtime. None of these issues were dangerous, but together they created just enough discomfort to interrupt her sleep, especially during the lighter stages, which are more common later in the night. What Eleanor experienced is very common in senior living, whether it's chronic pain, digestive issues, frequent urination, or sheepish temperature sensitivity. Even small imbalances can nudge the brain awake during the night. And while these signals may feel like sleep disturbances, they're actually your body's way of protecting itself. At Senior Wellness, we believe that understanding your body's whispers is part of holistic health. Instead of ignoring or fighting those early wake-ups, we can learn to explore them gently. For example, if you find yourself waking up at 3 a.m. with a full bladder, it may be helpful to adjust your fluid intake earlier in the evening. If joint pain wakes you, a warm compress or gentle stretching before bed might provide relief. If acid reflux is the culprit, eating dinner a bit earlier and avoiding certain foods may help. And let's not overlook one often missed cause: medications. Many prescriptions taken by older adults can affect sleep either by disrupting the sleep cycle or by causing side effects like muscle twitching, restlessness, or nocturia. If you suspect this may be the case, speak with your doctor. Never change your medication schedule on your own, but do bring up your concerns. There may be simple adjustments that can help. Eleanor eventually found her rhythm again. She started wearing supportive pillows to reduce pressure on her joints, ate lighter meals earlier in the evening, and asked her doctor to adjust her medication timing. Within a few weeks, she noticed the difference, not just in her sleep, but in how rested and peaceful she felt during the day. The body is wise. It doesn't shout, it signals. And waking at 3 a.m. may not be a failure of your sleep. It might be your body's invitation to listen more closely. If you find yourself in a similar situation, know that you're not alone. Many older adults are learning just like you to respond to these signs with patience and care. Better rest doesn't always come from force. It comes from understanding, adapting, and treating yourself with kindness, because you deserve restful sleep. Not just for energy, but for peace of mind, emotional strength, and the joy of waking up ready to greet a new day. When routines change, so does sleep. How daily habits shift your nights. Sometimes waking up at 3 a.m. isn't caused by a health issue or hormonal change. It's simply the result of what lifestyle shifts that slowly and quietly reshape our sleep patterns, especially in our later years. As we grow older, our days tend to look different than they once did. Retirement brings freedom, but also less structure. Meals may happen earlier. Physical activity might become less frequent. Social engagement can slow down. And without realizing it, our internal rhythm adjusts to match these changes. Take Walter, for example. At 79, he started waking up consistently around 2:45 a.m. At first, he assumed it was just a sleep problem, but after reflecting on his routine, he noticed something important. He was now eating dinner at 5 p.m., dozing off on the couch by 8 and in bed by 9. So when his body woke up 6 hours later, it wasn't broken. It had simply had enough rest based on that early schedule. Walter wasn't dealing with insomnia. He was living in a shifted rhythm. And once he recognized that, everything started to make more sense. At Senior Wellness, we often remind our community that senior living isn't just about age, it's about energy flow habits and how our days shape our nights. When your days get quieter, your nights might get longer, not because something's wrong, but because your body is responding to what it's given. Modern life tends to associate sleep problems with disorder, but in many cases, especially after age 70, it's about a routine misalignment rather than dysfunction. Ask yourself, are you going to bed earlier than you used to? Has your dinner time moved up? Are you spending less time outdoors or with others? Do your days lack movement or mental stimulation? If the answer is yes to even a few of those, your 3 a.m. wake-up call might be the result of an internal clock that has nothing left to do in the dark. So what can you do? Start small. Try adjusting your routine. Just a bit, eat dinner. 30-60 minutes later. Add light stretching or a gentle walk after your meal. Keep the lights dim but warm in the evening. Create a relaxing, extended wind-down routine with soft music reading or light conversation. During the day, increase your exposure to natural daylight. It helps anchor your circadian rhythm. Stay socially active even in quiet ways. A phone call with a loved one, a brief visit with a neighbor, or joining a group at a local center can provide mental energy that promotes healthier sleep later. And remember, the goal isn't to resist aging, it's to work with your body to co-create a daily rhythm that supports deeper, longer rest at night. Walter eventually started adjusting his habits. He stayed awake until 9:30 p.m., added a short walk to his evening, and swapped TV for a lighthearted book to relax his mind. Within a few weeks, he was waking closer to 5 a.m., and he felt more refreshed than he had in months. At Senior Wisdom, we say this often. The way we live our days is the way we sleep our nights. If your days are too quiet, your mind may speak up in the middle of the night. But if you add a little more sunlight, a little more laughter, and a touch more movement, you may just find the gift of rest, returning slowly, gently but surely. As always, consult your doctor before making major changes, especially if medications or conditions are involved. Every senior's sleep is unique and every adjustment should be thoughtful and safe. You deserve restful nights, but more importantly, you deserve vibrant, meaningful days. Because when your life feels full during the sunlight hours, your body is far more likely to rest peacefully when darkness falls. When the heart stirs at 3 a.m., emotional restlessness and the search for peace. There's a special kind of stillness that settles over the world at 3 a.m. The streets are quiet, the lights are low, and yet for many older adults the mind is anything but silent. While physical discomfort or changes in sleep hormones may explain some nighttime awakenings, there's another cause that's often overlooked. Emotional restlessness. The kind that doesn't come from the body but from the heart. Gloria, 80 years old, had always been a good sleeper. But after her husband passed, she found herself waking in the early hours more often. She wasn't in pain. Her room was quiet and cozy. Still at 3 a.m., she'd open her eyes feeling a heaviness in her chest. Not fear, not panic, just a vague unease. Thoughts would rise, uninvited memories, regrets, moments from the past. She hadn't thought about in years. This experience is more common than you might imagine. In fact, the quiet of night often gives space to what's unresolved. Loneliness, grief, unspoken worries, or even a sense of disconnection can surface when there are no distractions left to hold them back. At Senior Wellness, we gently remind our community that the mind, just like the body, needs room to process life, and sometimes the early hours of the morning become the only time it tries to do so. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign that you're human, that you've lived deeply, that your heart still remembers. Some experts refer to this as emotional digestion, just like our stomach processes food. During rest, our emotions may begin to stir when we finally slow down. And for many in their 70s, 80s, or beyond, this is a natural part of holistic health. The older we grow, the more we've seen, the more we've carried, and sometimes the more we still need to release. So what can we do when the soul wakes before the sun? For Gloria, it began with calm acknowledgement, not resistance. She started keeping a small journal by her bed. When she woke at 3 a.m., she'd write down whatever was on her mind. No judgment, no pressure to solve anything, just a quiet release. She also began listening to soft instrumental music, letting it soothe her thoughts without needing words. Other nights, she'd sip warm chamomile tea, sit by the window, and remind herself that she was still here, still breathing, still living, still part of something bigger. This gentle acceptance transformed her nights. Eventually, she didn't fear waking up early anymore. In fact, those quiet moments became something sacred, not a problem to be fixed, but an invitation to reflect and reconnect with herself, with her memories and with the life she's still creating. At Senior Living, emotional wellness is just as important as physical health. Whether it's grief, regret, or even subtle sadness, the heart deserves care too. If you're experiencing similar wake-ups, you might try writing down thoughts or worries before bedtime, listening to calming music or guided meditations, speaking with a therapist or trusted friend, practicing gentle breathing or prayer when emotions rise. And of course, always check in with your doctor if these wake-ups feel overwhelming or are affecting your well-being. Emotional health matters, sleep matters, and so does your peace. Sometimes 3 a.m. is when the world is quiet enough to hear your heart. And when you learn to listen with kindness, not fear, you might find healing in places you least expected. Because even in the dark, you're never alone. Your story still matters, your voice still counts, and your path to peace is always worth walking. If you've ever opened your eyes at 3 a.m. feeling alone with your thoughts, know this: you're not broken and you're not alone. Whether it's your body adjusting with age, your routine gently shifting, or your heart asking to be heard, these moments are part of the deeper rhythm of growing older. At Senior Wellness, we believe that understanding your sleep is part of understanding yourself. And every early morning wake-up is an invitation to pause, reflect, and show yourself compassion. If this video brought you comfort or clarity, please consider subscribing to our channel, liking this video, and sharing your story in the comments. You never know who else might find peace in your words. Let's keep building a space where aging is honored and rest is reclaimed with wisdom, with grace, and with kindness. Take care of your sleep, take care of your spirit, and as always, be gentle with yourself.